Hey everyone, Inside Indiana Overtime again. I'm Alex McCarthy with Inside Indiana. You can officially clear your calendars in December to make room for the start of Big Ten basketball season because the Indiana football team is not going to a bowl game this year as it went over to Columbus today and lost to Ohio State. Its seventh loss of the year, and Indiana can't be bowl eligible even if they win next week against Purdue. After losing 42-14 today to Ohio State, I think a lot of people thought it might have been even a little bit worse, especially after seeing what Wisconsin did to Indiana last week. But really, for the second straight week, it was most of the positives for Indiana were on the defensive side of the ball, which is something that people aren't really used to seeing in the past couple of years. Tonight, Indiana forced a few turnovers, got a few defensive stops. At one point in the first or second quarter, Indiana got a fumble recovery and forced a punt in back-to-back possessions. And on the ensuing two possessions, the Indiana offense just couldn't do anything with the ball, and I think gained a total of 26 yards on those two possessions, even with the fumble fairly deep in Ohio State territory, and they ended up missing a field goal on that drive. Weirdly, Mitch Ewald missed two field goals tonight. He hasn't missed any all year. Granted, he's only attempted a few, but he missed two field goals. One was off the right post, one was off the left post, so I guess if you take the average of them, he made two field goals, but he didn't, which was kind of odd to see. And Indiana didn't score a touchdown until less than 6 minutes left in the game. After every half of the season, they had scored 13 points they had scored 13 points at least in every half of the season up until their game against Wisconsin, and since then, Indiana scored 17 total points. It had 3 against Wisconsin last week, 14 against Ohio State this week. But there were, I guess, little victories for Indiana today. They were only outgained by, I think, a total of 29 yards. Ohio State had 472 total yards. Indiana had 442. Ohio State leads the conference in total yardage by, I think, 30, 40 yards a game. They average somewhere in the 530 range. So I guess that's a small victory, even though Ohio State actually did take out Braxton Miller late in the game to make room for Kenny Guyton, who's a senior, and it was his last game at Ohio Stadium. So, kind of a maybe if they had left Miller in, who knows. But, Indiana defense is actually, not too bad tonight. I mean, they won the turnover battle. They held Ohio State under 500 yards, so I guess if you're looking for little victories, that's there. And also, if you're more of a vindictive type, this probably hurt Ohio State's chances to go to the national title game, just because I don't think they covered the spread, which was 35 points. So, if you're looking for little things, I guess. But for the most part, again, a pretty ugly showing for Indiana, especially the offense, where they just really could never get anything going on that side of the ball. They couldn't capitalize on any of their opportunities. They scored once they scored twice in the red zone on 4 trips. I don't think even made it to the red zone in the first half, and then once they did, there were a couple drives that stalled inside the 10-yard line. So it was just kind of a weird performance from the IU offense. On the defensive side of the ball, again, the rushing game was a huge issue. Ohio State outrushed Indiana 311 to 122 today. Ohio State averaged 8 yards a rush and ran for 4 touchdowns. And 8 yards a rush is absolutely insane, especially because Ohio State and Indiana both ran the ball the same amount of times, if I'm reading this right. They both ran the ball 39 times, and Ohio State ran for an average of 8 yards a carry. Indiana averaged 3.1 yards per rush. So an enormous difference there. Again, maybe if Tevin Coleman's available, maybe that's a little bit different. But D'Angelo Roberts started, and Stephen Houston played. They didn't, they were never really able to get into a rhythm. I mean, the leading rusher for Indiana was Trey Roberson, who didn't start at quarterback and came in just kind of in spurts. He ran the ball 12 times for 79 yards. D'Angelo Roberts ran 14 times for 28 yards. Stephen Houston 7 times for 36 yards. So really never able to get anything going on the ground for Indiana, even though that's kind of that's really what makes their offense tick, is when they're able to run the ball, open up that pass game for Nate Sudfeld or for Trey Roberson, where they can be able to keep a defense honest, especially a defense that is as good as Ohio State, which has one of the best in the Big Ten. But Nate Sudfeld still has statistically, it's still a fairly respectable game. I mean, he throws 25 for 41, 224 yards and 2 touchdowns. But again, those 2 touchdowns came late in the game, in the last 6 minutes when the game was already pretty far out of reach. I mean, it was 28-0 before halftime, and you just felt like it was pretty far out of reach for Indiana. Indiana had a chance to score near the end of the half to make it 21-7. They couldn't. They took a sack on 4th down, I think, and then just in a flurry, Ohio State scores in I think like 52 seconds to make it 28-0 before halftime. And that was kind of the point where it went from, this could be kind of a feasible thing to it being really out of reach for Indiana, even though they did get the ball to start the second half. But you just felt kind of like, and even before that, you kind of just felt as if the IU offense just wasn't going to be able to put it together much. And it wasn't today. It was, again, you can look at a lot of the defensive statistics. I mean, the rushing defense is still a major, major concern for Indiana. But still, these past 2 weeks, a lot of the blame probably goes to the offense. Just because of last week it was because of the situations that they put the defense in with turnovers early on. This week it was the inability, like I said, to capitalize on that, on any of the opportunities that it had. Which is really not what we expected out of this Indiana offense. I mean, even after the 51-3 loss last week, they came into this game averaging almost 40 points a game, and still only managed 14 against Ohio State. But they come back next week against Purdue, where they should have more success on offense. Purdue obviously has had even a rougher year than Indiana. So that it's the bucket game. It's both of them don't have a bowl to play for. They just have this game to play for, and we'll be there. Obviously, the game's in Bloomington. The kickoff time has not been announced yet, but it will be obviously here in the next couple days, and we'll go from there. But and I'm sure we'll talk about this more after the season's over. But this is an Indiana team that was supposed to go to a bowl game, that was supposed to win 6, maybe 7 games. I don't know. I didn't really picture 7, but I thought 6 was certainly a feasible possibility, and they have their chances. I mean, if they don't blow that game, or if they don't, that huge comeback against Minnesota, if they don't fumble, if maybe Tevin Coleman's able to jump on the ball there against Minnesota, maybe we're talking about Indiana going to a bowl game. But we're not. We're talking about Indiana staying home through December and January, where it's another one of those seasons where there's that handful of plays where you think, that's the moment when Indiana could have been able to capitalize and been able to get that victory to push them from 5 to 6 wins and to bowl eligibility. But here they are at 4-7. The best they can do is 5-7, obviously, against Purdue. But they can get the bucket back. Purdue won it last year, or the last 2 years. So Indiana's looking to get that back, looking to get some in-state bragging rights at least next week. And we'll be out there, as I said. Basketball plays again Tuesday night against Evansville. We'll be there, and looking forward to another week. Maybe a little bit easier week where there's just one basketball game and one football game because of Thanksgiving. So maybe we'll have a little bit more time than we've had, where Indiana basketball's kind of gone through this grueling couple weeks. But stick with us here at Inside Indiana. We'll have a VIP room in a couple days, then a basketball game, and I don't know, maybe we'll do something fun over Thanksgiving. But for now, I'm Alex McCarthy for Inside Indiana, and you've been watching Inside Indiana Overtime.